Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Empowered Teams podcast. I'm Eric, and I'm here with Toby.
Well, we just had a discussion on what today's podcast was about. And one of the things that we were thinking of was looking at creativity and innovation in the context of training methodologies. So what does that mean? Well, it means, to use the sort of overused way of saying it, of finding your creative edge and unleashing your creativity. But instead of getting our inspiration from the business world or the art world, so to speak, we were going to look at the world of high-class sport and the training methodologies, the way they think about training, that actually unlocks not only performance, but new modes of achieving that performance, which can only be bracketed as I suppose, creating domination, if it's not a great word, through innovation, right? Or creating disruption through innovation.
Immediately, I want to sort of bounce off on what you were saying there, because I think one of the core things to keep in mind here is you mentioned, you mentioned creativity, and then you mentioned art. I think that one of the things that happens is we have a sort of a cultural bias where we're taught that creativity is this thing that only really exists in the world of art, and we think of creativity as, creating artistically, building something, making objects, right? And I think my question here, which is sort of a leading question, is that what you mean by creativity?
That's that's a really good point, Eric. One that we've faced many times before, and perhaps it's one to dig in a bit deeper in, because I think when the terms creativity and innovation are used at its most general level, people just want to run away from it, because the first instinct they say is, I'm not creative, I'm not innovative, and their negative self-view pulls them back from even thinking that they could be in that direction. And so if we start to look at, well, there are two things to start off with, to break down. Creativity in the art world is developed through training. That's the first myth to bust.
Yeah.
Right. Sure, there are examples of people with incredible talent who appear but like shooting stars, and they're able to do things that are just mind-blowing, amazing, right? But there are other people who didn't start with talent, but trained themselves to develop new ways of expression, whether that's through music or through art or through theater or through writing. Right? I remember doing a presentation to a human performance consultancy organization, and we were running workshops where this subject came up. And one guy was really aggressive. I mean, like really, really aggressive about this, and must have really touched something within him, because there we were teaching how to draw an upside down horse. Right, which is a subject. But anyway, it's a way, why is it upside down? Because if you turn the object that you're looking at upside down, well, it actually disengages your 3D VR processing in your head, and you're just looking at the lines. And you're
Instead of
basically
seeing
just
patterns, you just see shapes, basically.
yeah. And you draw that, and then suddenly when you step back, you see, okay, I've got a horse. So what I first said was to get people to see that it's just a matter of training, was you get them to draw a horse first. And it is what it is. There's varying degrees of trying, and then you get them to do the exercise, and within half an hour, they've learned a technique that allows them to draw a horse.
Yeah.
And after a while, through training, it can become freehand. But this guy, what he was actually saying was, the original drawing was, from his point of view, the most creative. And I have to say, I was I was lost for words.
Hmm.
Because what he was emphasizing was the creativity is the first thing that you do without any training. And I said to him, we live in Paris. I said, you go to the Louvre Museum, you walk upstairs to where all these incredible paintings are, and what do you see? You see people of all generations sitting with an easel, all right? And if you go and ask them what they're doing, they'll tell you. And they are focused on training, on learning one color. That's it.
Okay.
Weeks on end to
Yeah.
reproduce one color again and again and again.
Yeah.
And then when you start to then dig underneath a little bit more, you'll see that there's lots of, I'm going to use the word skillful means, ways that, for example, some artists will use a window that actually will draw an object on a pane of glass, all right, what they're looking at, to give them the perspective. But
Okay.
isn't that cheating? Isn't that cheating then?
Yeah. Who cares, right?
No, but it's not cheating.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
it's right. It's not who
It's a
cares.
tool
It's
it's a tool to reach an objective.
right. It's
Yeah.
a technique.
Yeah. Exactly.
So what are we trying to
Just
say there is it's like creativity only exists if there's no techniques. You've got to be kidding me.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you
Well,
spend 4 years at art school doing?
I think that's one of the interesting things. I have I've actually met quite a few artists, and one of the things that I've heard multiple times is artists literally saying that they hate people saying with stars in their eyes, "Oh my God, you're so talented," specifically because this notion of talent is something that you're supposed to just have innately instead of
Yeah,
something you train. And they will focus on saying, no, I'm not talented. I learned this. I worked on it. I achieved
all right,
this
and
by learning it, by
right.
learning to
So
do it.
when we take Kobe Bryant, James LeBron, and the others, and they talk about, well, how did we get to this high level of performance? And they're like, because we failed. But then people say, oh yeah, but like, well, you mean they failed, but it's like they had talent in order to get there. Well, no, they didn't. They had determination, they
Yeah.
had resilience, they had endurance, they never gave up,
Yeah.
right? What are we going to say? All of these make talent,
Yeah. Yeah. So
because
I guess
the
another way to put it would be to say that, if you want to remove the word talent, you could say that they have a base ability. In terms of sports, it would be like your base ability to achieve a certain level of physical prowess. Not everyone has the same, but, you know, even if you're not like a perfect, you know, uh, fit for a given sport, it doesn't mean you can't get good at that sport. It just means it'll be a bit harder. It'll take more work, right?
but it's and that's the thing to look at. Like for many years, I did martial arts and
Hmm.
trained with black belts and trained black belts. And one of the things that there's every year, your September comes round and a new class starts of beginners.
Yeah.
And by the end of the year, out of 10, you're lucky if two are still left behind. All right. Um, One of the things that was characteristic that we experienced again and again, that the ones that were left behind weren't the ones with the most potential.
Mm.
The ones who were left behind were the ones that just kept turning up
Yeah.
and turning up
Yeah.
and turning up.
Yeah.
All right. And it was that turning up. All right. You can't just turn up and do nothing, because there are some people who are good at turning up and they still
Yeah.
do nothing. Right.
Yeah.
It's turning up. So, and they had no talent. I mean, when I started in martial arts, not that I had no talent whatsoever, zero, zilch. All right. I know that if I'm going to get at something physical, that I have to keep going and failing and failing and failing and failing until bit by bit it starts to mold, and then high performance comes in. So I suppose one of the things, well, I wanted to come back to this
Yeah.
definition of
Yeah. Yeah.
creativity. No, I'd say, so what are the ways that we can help people in business teams in particular understand the concept of creativity. If creativity has got such a negative, black hole gravitational force about it, that it says, oh no, that's not me, I can't possibly do it. We say, well, actually what creativity is about creating alternatives. And the person that pioneered this is Edward de Bono.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking of innovation, instead of doing that, which are, trap you by those very words,
Yeah.
right?
People get in
And
their head about the concepts, right?
which is what you were just
Yeah.
saying. I'm not talented. You're missing the 10
Yeah.
years it take me to get. There's that crazy story we've told a few times where there's a famous musician and he's blind in the US, and he was commissioned to write the opening to a big event in New York,
Okay.
right? So and it's he went home. He had a steak, he had a beer, put his stuff to one side, and and he wrote it. He wrote it out. It took him half an hour.
Mm.
I went back, said, here it is, etc. People are going like, wow, same thing. So talented.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, I'm really talented. Yeah, 40 years to do it in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. It took me 40 years to do that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we come to business world then, all right, I'm like, we just had this presentation 2 weeks ago with a consultancy when they were still in shock because we suggested that, well, really training once a year is not a good idea for soft skills. And they weren't too pleased at our recommendation was, do you remember? So it's like, you train once a year and you think you're going to get it in an area that is like so hard to build, communication, planning, execution, creative thinking, problem solving. You train once a year and you're going to expect high performance.
Yeah. Isn't that also sort of a result of training having been, sort of relegated to the realm of almost technocratic, box checking? Like, we have to train people. Okay, so, we're going to get everyone trained. We need to tick the training box. And, the amount of training, the actual outcomes and results of that training are completely irrelevant to getting that box checked and just making sure that, someone in HR is going to be happy, or someone in the, up in your hierarchy is going to be happy that you reported that everyone's been trained. And it's sort of, it seems to be the prevalent, maybe not mindset, but system, right? Even people who don't really think that way or who don't want to be that way, that's sort of the system that they're working within, regardless, within most big businesses.
Well, that seems to me that you have executive coaches, you have trainers, they all mirror the sports world. But they have nothing to do with high performance. It's just that it's like, I don't know, we're doing the Emperor's Got No Clothes here, but we sit there and you and I and the rest of the team and our partners and we listen to clients talk, and it's like, if you were a sports team, well, you'd give up. It's like, how can you, do you know what I mean? It's like, seriously, right?
Yeah.
So we know, right, that the new business model is focused around soft skills, power skills, okay, and new technologies.
Yeah.
Because whatever's coming down the line, when we talk about scientific revolution, we talk about technological revolution, and everybody says, yeah, but digital's done, digital hasn't even begun. It's like, digital hasn't even begun, it's like you have a foretaste of what digital is going to be.
And I think to sort of give maybe a few examples just to get people in the right mindset here, digital elements have come into the workplace and industry for quite a while, and we saw the early examples of companies completely dying out, with like Kodak getting just failing at digital cameras and just ignoring them, and lots of famous examples like that. But one of the things you have to keep in mind is that it's not just accelerating, but it's also spreading to more and more, you know fields, more and more elements. Like, a famous example is Uber, which sort of took the digital revolution out of the purely computer space, and sort of revolutionized an industry, for the better or for the worse. That's besides the point. Simply by bringing technology to it, where no one really felt the need to bring that technology. It was already there. They didn't do anything new. They just said, well, we're going to take that tech and we're going to make it the center of what we're doing. And it completely changed the entire business. It was a real disruption. And what's happening, I'd say, is that technology is basically growing into everything, just because that's how things work these days. And so the number of disruptions and the scope of these disruptions is just going to keep getting faster and faster and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
The current zeitgeist, the current probably fear, is around AI and machine learning and all those things, and it's likely that these are going to make massive change to various industries and various ways of life, and you have to be prepared for that. That's just the reality of it. We don't know to what extent, but it's pretty much inevitable at this point. So how do you prepare?
So that's
for that?
right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a good lead-in term. So what we do know is this balancing act between hard skills,
Hmm.
technical expertise, and soft
Which is
skills.
yeah.
Right. So we have an education system, both
Hmm.
corporate and school, university, that focuses on hard skills.
Yeah.
All right. And somewhere along, you pick up sort of being nice to people or not, as the case may be. And you think that's soft skills,
Yeah.
right? That's what soft skills are.
Yeah.
What's soft skills got to do with creativity and innovation? You don't know what you're talking about. Well, actually, you know, if we're talking about finding alternatives, if we're talking about thinking out of the box, if we're talking about problem solving, execution, collaboration, teamwork, all right, goal setting, um, adapting, resilience, endurance. If we talk about wrapping that up with emotional intelligence, which in its essence is skilled awareness and
Yeah.
self-control, well, that's soft skills. And how are you gonna how you gonna you know how you gonna develop that? Well, it's not going to happen in a 2-day course,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
If you've spent all the sorry, go on.
no, I was just going to say, and contrary to hard skills, it's literally something you can't learn from a textbook, right? 'Cause you can't just read it. It's not something that you can just ingest and memorize. It's something that is literally only learned through applying it. There's no other way.
Well, so if we think about it, what you and I've said before, if you're a specialist in hard skills, which is what we talk about why people are frightened of AI,
Hmm.
right? Well, you're going to be an app. I
Yeah.
use app in this term. You're going to get turned into an app. Well,
Hmm.
you're not, but your expertise is, and we can see the fear around Chat GPT, Cat, and we know there's going to be 5 and there's going to be 6, and
Yep.
we have stuff. What happens when you put Chat GPT Sank 5 into a robot,
Yep.
right? Or and that
And
robot's your
and
that robot's your surgeon.
yeah. And
All
there
right.
are already people working on things where, like, ChatGPT, basically they put it in a cycle where it prompts itself, and it's showing signs. And to be clear, this is like very blurry at the moment. We don't know what's happening, but it's showing signs of becoming sort of, to a certain extent, self-sufficient at being able to do certain tasks, right? Because basically all you're doing is you're giving it freedom to do something, and it will tend to find a way to get it done, right? So
So what do we? And then suddenly say, yeah, but that's taking away, the jobs of human. It's not actually, to a certain, yes, it is,
it
but
is,
it
or it will
means,
be,
but
yeah.
it means that we can now re-emphasize because what this machinery, for want of a
Hmm.
better accent, doesn't have, right, is it's not able to create alternatives in the same way teams can move together. So here you have the AI delivers a hard skills speed of reaction. That's
Yeah.
what AI can do. All
Yeah.
right. That doesn't mean to say it can't author stuff and it can't
No.
create stuff. It does. But the soft skills in and of itself, all right, a team. And I think that's another thing to talk about, Eric, maybe, is when we talk about team, because that came up in a conversation with one of our partners 2 days ago, was that when we say team, we do not mean a dedicated team. We do not mean 5 people that work in the same office or work in the same team. Can't be.
Mm.
What we mean is team skills. That
Yeah.
means wherever you're located and whoever you're working with,
Yeah.
you have collaborative intelligence.
Yeah.
All
It,
right.
it, it's
So,
it's being able to react to any teamwork environment, not just being familiar with a given set of people, right? To sort of rephrase that.
or that you've suddenly, over the door you go in, this is XYZ team.
Yeah.
This is, ABC team. Because what is the team going to face, particularly if it's multidisciplinary, and it comes from a team can be made up that's from multiple departments,
Hmm.
multiple organizations. When you come together, all right, how do you collaborate with emotional intelligence? Well, why do we use the word emotional intelligence? Because the group should have a self awareness, and the group should have control in that it has a radar of how it learns to adapt. It's what's used as by Josh Berzin and others out there as change agility.
Okay.
And that ability to mobilize yourself as a force against the circumstances as they change. And what
Yeah.
you just described, scientific, technological, and digital, that's coming, means you're constantly having to move.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that goes with that collaborative intelligence is immersive intelligence.
Yeah.
So there's and you and I know we've been on we would argue that to a larger or lesser degree, most organizations at a senior level do not have any immersive intelligence whatsoever,
Yeah.
or it's pretty limited.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost a sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy that in order to reach, the scale and scope of a large company, and especially to be sort of at the head of that type of organization, you literally have to spend so much time building foundations that you're stuck in place. You're rooted in place and unable to adapt and evolve. It's and it's not always true, but it happens often enough that it's basically the standard procedure. And so large companies are blind to are completely unaware of their their inability to adapt and change and be agile in the, not just in the agile methodology, but in the broad sense of the term. Be reactive,
So
I
if,
guess, is another way of
so
saying
if
it.
we if we want the technical term, the posh word for that is skilled incompetence.
Yeah.
It's limited in capacity. Throw another one there. There's a groupthink that takes place that prevents the group from functioning, right, at a high level.
Yeah.
Somehow, when we put people within a group, right, we know the level that they operate, is well below the level of collective intelligence that it should
Yeah.
do. What takes place is negative emotions within the team. So we know that if you want to unleash these teams, they have to focus on unlocking the fear, uncertainty, and doubt
Yeah.
to allow people to make mistakes. So let's peel back to this Kobe Bryant example
Yeah.
that I really like. But he's not the only person to think like that. But he's really, took it to a new level. Was he created high performance, not just for himself, became a role model worldwide for the teams he worked with,
Hmm.
and inspirational, because what he did was yeah, everybody knows he trained harder.
Mm.
Everybody knows the story, that as the basketball Olympic team came back, they came back from a night out. There he was going down the stairs. They come back 4 o'clock in the morning. He's going down the stairs to the gym.
Yeah.
So they felt all guilt tripped and end up being there the following day and the following day,
Hmm.
etc. So it wasn't just that he put more hours in.
Yeah.
There is that. It was the hours that he put in that were qualitatively different. Remember,
Okay.
I talked about it before.
Yeah.
I kind of came up with a term that he used to go up and down the basketball court looking like he did Tai Chi, right?
Yeah.
No ball in their hand, but he's practicing
Yeah.
moving. He's using visualization techniques,
Hmm.
right? And these visualization techniques allow him to create a mind-body connection, right? Which is not just repeatedly doing
Yeah.
a thousand repetitions of basic techniques. The Kobe Bryant is the 666 techniques,
Yeah.
So
Isn't
so
another way to sort of think about this, like I know that there's decades if not centuries of research on how to train hard skills, how best to transmit information to someone, but to my knowledge there's probably at least way less research on how to train soft skills, how to train skills that are not directly transmissive, something that you can literally deliver. And so I guess what the question is, basically he found ways, he looked for and found ways to train these intangible skills, and that's what gave him the edge. That's what allowed him to
you have
train team work and his specific abilities and that sort of stuff. So I guess what we're asking here is, what are the ways and the disciplines that you can apply to train soft skills? I'm
well,
generalizing, but
no, no, it's pretty good. I think one of the key things is if you come back to this idea of the classical education approach is exam based.
yeah,
And what that means is you acquire knowledge in a non-permanent way because once you've done the exam, it no longer stays with you.
yep. And not
Once
just that, but our mind has a tendency to to dislike acquiring knowledge for the sake of acquiring knowledge. But we have like a built-in systems that make us love and adore figuring things out ourselves, right? And so
um,
we know for a fact that if you choose to learn something, you'll learn it way better and way faster. So the question
okay,
is
so if you sell,
how to make you choose, right? How to make you want that.
well, that means then you come back to something where we talk about that if we're talking about teamwork, that you have to start, um, you have to have a paradigm shift. You have to talk about shared purpose.
Hmm.
You have to talk about a growth mindset.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. In that, you have to talk about community.
Yeah.
Because here what you're doing is you're saying that the people who are working with me, for me, are part of it. You're investing in them, and
Yeah.
to a lot of extent, that means we have to move away from the corporate slavery model that exists. That you're just a number.
Yeah.
You come in and go out. You have a set of skills. They have a sell-by date, and you know. And you come in, I plug you in, you do your job, you leave.
Yeah.
That's
And
it. Here,
everyone
here.
resents everyone and the tasks that they're assigned to, basically.
Well, there literally is a sell-by date on this model, and we can see it fast coming because those jobs that we're talking about are fast being replaced by some form of digital um, app. I'm
Yeah.
trying to use app
And
in
when
this.
that's not the case, there's some sort of a, more agile, either startup or just a bit leaner, you know, uh, competitor that comes around and finds a more efficient, better, and either cheaper or more powerful way of doing it, and just applies that another model,
Five,
which typically
five,
is the model you're talking about, right?
yeah, 5 people in a garage with some coding knowledge are going to going to do you some damage if you're focused on hard skills. But let's peel back, just back to the Kobe Bryant thing. So what happened was he realized that by, year 1, year 2, year 3, his competitive performance was so far in advance of the peers that he was competing with that it was mind-blowing over a period of time.
Yeah.
So let's just look at the skills gap within teams and organizations. They don't train. And let's be really clear for those that are listening, what we're not talking about is team building. Please understand this. Team building, where you go for a happy day out, happy 2 days out, it's got nothing to do with teamwork training. It's got nothing to do.
I actually had a very interesting chat with a friend of mine not too long ago who works in a very traditional corporate environment, which she often jokingly refers to as being similar to the Scranton headquarters in the series The Office, the U.S. version, right? And so she works in that sort of environment, and she said that when they go and do team building, it's basically the best way to start tolerating your coworkers a bit better. That's the whole point. It's just about not hating everyone.
Well, yeah, because duh. I mean, you've never been on one of these, but my God, it's the truth. You want, but
Yeah.
so I mean, so
that's really not the teamwork and teamwork training we're talking about. It's not just having fun.
No, we're talking about power skills, and so when we talk about power skills, one of the things, for those who are listening, what do we do is we're focused on teamwork, on getting people to be able to utilize teamwork skills in all sorts of different environments, so that you can create high performance. What we mean by high performance is that you can set goals, all right? You can collaborate intelligently, you can solve problems at speed, and you can execute plans, and you can prototype. So what's interesting is when you go to a museum and you go and watch an artist, and then you see the 1,500 drawings they did to get this painting.
Yeah.
But nobody takes on board the 1,500 drawings they did to get this painting was training.
Yeah.
No, they were just practicing. They were,
Yeah.
And the other 1,500 drawings they did, the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that, to create this. What do we call that? We call that prototyping. We call that iterative development. So within our simulations that we've created, what we're talking about is that you are regularly training, right, as a team to develop, to build and maintain, and to continue develop, build and maintain soft skills. A 2-day course not going to fix it. Neither is 1 year's training. You are not going to become a black belt in soft skills in 1 year.
Yeah.
I reckon takes 5 years. All right, to get your black
intensive
belt.
regular training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in business world, regular would be intensive.
I think what's interesting is that typically, one of the first questions we get when we start discussing our simulation with clients is, how long do you have to train for, right? It's that thing where we always throw the question back at them and say, well, how long do you have to train for, to get good at something, right? And they never know, because for them, they're used to having to fill in a form and to say, we're going to set everyone up for 4 hours of training. That's not the point. It's to create an ecosystem, right, where people go out and train. The amount of time is not as important as just creating that mindset within the company where going out to train is what you do in order to progress further and progress the team and the company forward, right?
I never think of it like this. I just had that thought as you were talking about, we talk about power skills. So if you don't training on it, you're powerless with skills. You're powerless.
Yeah.
Right? You're at the mercy of the riptides that are coming towards you. all right? And there's, we talk about building resilience, but resilience means that you've got some resources to be able to deal with what's going to be fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Without a doubt about it, you're going to, right? And we then say that if you're powerless, the reason that you're powerless is because you haven't thought through the process of skill acquisition. So I suppose as we're coming to the end of the podcast now, what are the key things that we're trying to say is that you've got to prioritize this is what Kobe Bryant, you've got to prioritize training strategies. Mm-hmm. Your training strategies are going to equal the defenses with which you are able to cope with the future. And I use the word defenses wrong, but really it's a framework.
It's almost more like reactivity. It's that ability to just stay on your feet, right? And just sort of be ready for anything that comes your way.
And that you've got to train under realistic conditions regularly. And that's why, whether it's our simulation or other simulations, those simulations have to be proving grounds, and they have to be team-based, and they have to be difficult.
Yeah.
It's no point training where it's easy, because nobody's going to improve. And that's, one of the fallacies I think we talked about in the last podcast. But one of the things is then you're going to have to reimagine training and experiential learning to create performance. I think that's what we're trying to say here.
No, yeah, absolutely. And, we're I guess one way to put it is that we're sort of advocates for this new methodology, this new way of thinking. We're working towards that. That's one of our main objectives. And we're probably not the only ones out there at this point. There's lots of other people who already have this in mind. I think that the main issue is just that there's no sort of broad adoption, right? There are quite a few people who understand this need for training, who understand the concepts behind it, but in practice, no one really practices this.
No, they're in the trap of thinking about it. And because they're thinking about it, they think that they're training.
Yeah.
So
awareness is not competency.
No, well, yeah, but in this case, it's not even awareness. It's knowledge of.
Yeah.
If they had some awareness,
surface awareness.
then,
yeah, exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think this is interesting sort of conclusion to this, right? It's like actually try it. Don't just think about it.
Well,
go and try something.
So what we're talking about here is that you're gonna, creativity is gonna be your edge. That's going to be your competitive advantage. And really what we're talking about is the ability to create alternatives at speed. Mm-hmm. It's going to be driven by PowerSkills. And that your obstacle that's going to be this is learned incapacity, right? Skilled unawareness.
Yep.
You unlock this by training regularly, by developing skilled awareness, by developing self-control, by developing a team radar, by developing collaborative intelligence and immersive intelligence, whilst we are specialists in this, there are other organizations out there, and you should, search them out.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to say thank you.
Well, thank you,
Eric.
Yeah.
And
thanks to our listeners. It's always we like last time. We'd love to hear about what you have to say about this. If you have any interesting anecdotes or things to share, articles, it's great to sort of start a discussion, and we can get back to you and update our point of view. And like and subscribe. You know the gist. And
please,
we'll see you next week, right?
Yep. See you on the next one. Thank you very much. Bye.